It is June 2026, and we just got 8 new games in the latest Humble Choice. From a haunted nun, amateur construction workers, and a base building mech, we have a lot to go over. I'm here to let you know what I added to my favorites, what I tossed in the library, and what I got banished into the hidden section. My name's Stevie, and I tried all of the games to be able to give you my humble opinion. Overlooting, with a metascore of, there's no metascore, or user score. Humble, where did you find this game? But we have reviews, with some negatives saying, it just seems like there should be more. But some positives, solid roguelike that had a lot of replayability. Knowing that I'm a sucker for good roguelike, maybe I'm gonna enjoy this one, let's see. Overlooting is a turn-based RPG, but without experience points or world exploration. All you do is fight enemies and collect loot. At the end of each battle, you're offered one of 3 items, and choosing the best gear for your build is essential if you want your run to last. Equipment is how you increase your stats, and each item comes with its own perk and type, making synergy the main focus. You can combine 2 identical items up to 3 times to boost their stats, giving you another way to strengthen your build. Combat itself is simple. You attack by clicking on the enemy and using whatever weapon you have equipped in your hands. With limited inventory space, managing your gear and potions becomes an important part of every run. There are also a few ways to influence your build. The blacksmith can fuse 3 items together for a chance to create a higher quality piece of equipment, while books grant you modifiers that completely change the direction of your run. With only 2 characters to unlock and a fairly small pool of modifiers to discover, Overlooting is a game you can see most of in a relatively short amount of time. And with that being said, Overlooting is being added to my favorites. I've been playing this on and off, it is fun. Before bed, streaming on my phone, it's quite enjoyable.
Artefato de ascendência divina.
Hellclock, with a metascore of 82 and a user score of 85. With some reviewers saying, incredibly lacking in build diversity, and yet others, a hidden gem, roguelike-Diablo-esque hack and slasher. Seems interesting. I'm dying to try this one out. Hellclock is a fast-paced roguelike with a timer constantly hanging over your head, forcing you to rush through the dungeon if you want to continue your descent. It's full of snap decision-making. Do you spend time exploring for a coin to upgrade your weapon? Or do you avoid enemies and push deeper before the clock runs out? That constant trade-off keeps the pressure on. With 4 attacks that you can upgrade, modify, or swap out, there's a surprising amount of depth to the combat. It feels satisfying to experiment with different builds and abilities. The story mixes real historical events surrounding a massacre in Brazil with a supernatural tale about one of the victims descending into hell in search for revenge. It definitely made me curious to learn more about the game's lore and read up on the history that inspired it. And while your runs can end, either through death or running out of time, the game does a good job of avoiding player frustration. It has an elaborate hub area where you can purchase permanent upgrades and learn more about the world by talking to characters you rescue during your runs. And this one is going straight into my favorites. I loved it. It is a roguelike, I'm curious, it is addictive, I'll be playing more of it. Construction Simulator. It still doesn't have a metascore, but it does have a user score of 75, with some reviewers saying that it's buggy and annoying, but others saying it's a great chill-out game. So let's give it a look and find out what we think about it. What a surprise it was to discover that Construction Simulator is actually an open world game. It encourages you to wander around and mess about, which I wasn't expecting at all. There are plenty of different pieces of construction equipment to play around with, and while jumping from one control scheme to another can be a bit disorienting, messing up the job is honestly part of the fun. The game never really punishes you for making mistakes, which gives this game this wonderful jank charm, and it even has multiplayer so you can goof around with friends. At one point, I jumped onto a car and rode about the town. I found a landmark at a church and decided to celebrate by dancing on somebody's grave. But if you actually want to take the game seriously, there are loads of contracts to complete and skills to unlock, so there seems to be something for everyone. I had fun with this game, but I'm afraid it might be diminishing returns, so I'm gonna toss this into the pile. It's gonna go into my library. If I ever get the itch to play a simulator game, I know I'm gonna go straight for this one. It was good while it lasted. Citizen Sleeper 2, with a metascore of 85 and a user score of 74. Some reviewers like the concept of the game, but everything about the UI and tutorial is terrible, while others think the second Citizen Sleeper game increases the scope significantly. So let's try it out and see what we think. Citizen Sleeper 2 is a cyberpunk visual novel with some RPG-style skill checks and some resource management. It reminds me of Disco Elysium, but with much less interactivity, and unfortunately, no voice acting. This is a very reading-focused game, with occasional moments of choice and interaction. Personally, I don't find reading relaxing, so getting through the game often felt more like a chore than something I'm looking forward to. There's an element of luck through dice rolls that determines whether actions succeed, but even that lacks a sense of excitement. The presentation feels very subdued, so the few interactive moments end up feeling more like navigating a menu panel than actually playing a game. Despite all the wonderful things I've heard about Citizen Sleeper 2, it's just not for me. And with that being said, I'm gonna have to put Citizen Sleeper 2 banished into the hidden files. It's not a bad game. I can see why people enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it, and I will not be returning to this one.
I think deep inside she hated her monastic cell, Smaragda's tasteless cabbage soup, the smell of rotting old women that even incense could not.
With endless mercy and compassion, I dare to approach thee, O Christ.
Indika, with a metascore of 80 and a user score of 70, some reviewers complain that Indika is a game that tries very hard to be more art than game, while others say, when the credits rolled, I knew it was already part of my favorites. I heard some people talking about this game and I'm very curious, so let's jump into it. I've seen a lot of video essays talking about Indika as something you experience rather than simply play. I went into it knowing that this wasn't going to be a fun game in the traditional sense. Instead, it's a provocative narrative that uses the medium in some really interesting ways. It's not so much of a horror game, it's a dark comedy, constantly balancing the dreadful with the absurd. The result is an unsettling but fascinating experience. You play as a nun going through a crisis of faith, accompanied by a voice in her head that mocks her and occasionally causes hallucinations. At first glance, it looks like a walking simulator, but it gradually reveals itself to be more of a thought-provoking puzzle game. Frustration is a big part of both the narrative and the gameplay, but the game's creativity keeps pulling me forward. Even when I'm annoyed, I find myself wanting to continue, just to see what strange idea is thrown at me next. There's also a bizarre layer of gamification that feels completely out of place at first. You earn points to unlock nodes on your skill tree, but once you read the descriptions, you realize that it's all a big joke. So in conclusion, adding it to my favorites. The second I finish this video, I'm playing that game.
Honestly, kinda. In a stomping on your Barbies while pretending to be Godzilla kind of way.
You know that's not a universal childhood experience, right?
Well, maybe it should be.
Life is Strange Double Exposure, with a metascore of 73 and a user score of 48, with some negative reviews saying a disgrace to the Life is Strange franchise, but with some positive reviews saying this is pretty much everything I hoped it was. I have never played one of these games, so I'm actually curious to see what I think of it. At its core, Life is Strange is a walking simulator and a choose-your-own-adventure game, Exploring the environment and reading notes are a huge part of the narrative, so it's worth taking your time. The first chapter took me around 2 hours to finish, and it's only near the very end that the game starts introducing meaningful choices and its supernatural elements. Indie music is a huge part of Life is Strange. It does a lot to set the mood and give you a sense of tone and culture surrounding the characters. The cast is generally pleasant, but I found many of the conversations and personalities to be fairly safe and superficial, compared to a game like Until Dawn, where the characters are often unlikable but interesting. Life is Strange has more of an agreeable cast that sometimes feel a bit hollow. The whole experience reminds me of a teen drama series. It starts with a strong hook, but most of the time, you're just watching the cast talk about everyday things. That gives the story a very low-stakes, cozy feeling, which can be quite comforting depending on what you're looking for. With that being said, Life is Strange is gonna be tossed in my library. I'm tempted to see Chapter 2, but I don't think I'm gonna get into this story. It's a bit bland.
A building has been destroyed.
We should start downloading new blueprints so we can construct more advanced buildings and items. Build a communications hub as soon as possible.
The Riftbreaker. With a metascore of 83 and a user score of 81, we have some negative reviews saying, by and large, the worst kind of tower defense, but some positive ones saying, the base building was what I was craving from the old RTS days. By the footage I saw, this looks pretty interesting, so I'm excited to try it out. The campaign throws a lot at you right at the start, which makes for a pretty overwhelming introduction when you're still trying to get your bearings. The game's characters are constantly chatting about important lore or giving you instructions, but I'm usually too busy fighting off insects or squinting at the menu's tiny text to pay attention. There are plenty of weapons and options to dealing with the alien bugs and defending your base, but I was rarely sure what some of the buildings actually did. More than once, I got frustrated when a machine wasn't working and I had no idea why. Despite that, base building is something that naturally appeals to me, and figuring out efficient layouts and production chains kept me engaged during my time with the game. I can see multiplayer being the way to go, as managing everything with other people sounds like it could be a fun experience. Overall, I felt like this is the kind of game I could really get into after a couple of sessions, once I had a better understanding of the system. So I'm gonna have to say, this is going into my library. It's fun, it's interesting. I just couldn't get into it yet because I'm a little bit confused, but maybe one day.
How deplorable. It just cannibalized its own kind.
Octopath Traveler 2. With a metascore of 85 and a user score of 83, this is a popular franchise. But we have people saying, I'm about 7 hours into this game and I have unlocked 3 characters and I'm bored out of my mind. But with others saying, my favorite JRPG in decades. It's been a blast discovering the world, characters, and story. I'm gonna get in trouble for this one because I don't really like JRPGs and I tried it and it wasn't for me, but just listen to my review. Octopath Traveler 2 is very much a traditional JRPG, with stunning pixel art that feels like a modern take on the Super Nintendo era. I have a lot of love for games from that time, but turn-based JRPGs have never really been my thing. They tend to be slow, text-heavy, and packed with lore that rarely grabs me. I was hoping this game would be a gateway into the genre that finally gets me excited for JRPGs. However, despite all the praise it received, it turned out to be almost exactly what I don't enjoy about these games. The little combat I experienced felt fairly standard, and since I only had one party member, I barely got to see any of the system the game is known for. The enemies didn't display the health bar, so I started to think I was doing something wrong when the first area boss took me forever to beat. With that being said, I am tossing this game into my library, but I am determined to play this one more time. I am determined to find out what people like about this game, because I don't think I found it yet. And those were the games. So let's do a quick recap to see how we feel about this month. To my favorites, I'll be adding Indika, I can't wait to complete this game. Hell Clock. That sense of rush hooked me immediately. Overlooting, a great game to play a run or two before bed. To my library, I'll be tossing Life is Strange. The cliffhanger got me. The Riftbreaker. I can see myself really getting into this one. Construction Simulator. It was fun while it lasted. Octopath Traveler 2. But I appreciated what it was trying to do. To my hidden folder, I'll be banishing Citizen Sleeper 2. I can't imagine this game growing on me. And that concludes this month's bundle. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and hopefully I inspired you to try some of these games. But at the end of the day, don't forget, this was just my humble opinion.